Good morning, everyone. Paul Ruppel here with Fox 29 News Now. Hope your Friday's off to a great start. You're looking at NASA TV. We're hoping to get you an event that's supposed to occur soon. My understanding is NASA is discussing plans to open the International Space Station to expanded commercial activities. Actually, let's listen in. Sounds like they could be talking about that right now. Let's listen.
And so never ever self-eliminate is the other biggest advice I have. Don't self-eliminate. And what I mean is don't choose that this path is too hard. Don't choose that you are not going to be good enough. Always choose the next step that takes you in that direction and make somebody else tell you that you're not going to get it. So be unrealistic about your dreams, realistic about your path, go forward fearlessly, and don't self-eliminate.
So I'm not sure what I can add to that. It's spot on. Anything worth pursuing is going to be challenging, and just because you stumble along the way, don't ever give up.
And we saw that you were doing, or somebody was doing, an experiment that involved some kind of a flame. Do you know what
It looks like right now this is an educational event airing on NASA TV, so if we get that news conference about the, again, NASA announcing plans to open the International Space Station to expanded commercial activities, we'll get you out there as soon as possible. In the meantime, let's take a quick look at our weather. You're looking live at the Benjamin Franklin Parkway right now. It's 74 degrees outside. The dew point is 57. Winds out of the north at 8 miles per hour. Doesn't feel quite as humid as it did yesterday. I'm going to quick look at Ultimate Doppler here for you. You see some moisture to our south. But the call for today right now, this is the weekend forecast from our Sue Sario, is what a weekend. Seasonable temps, sunshine with a few clouds, no rain, enjoy. So it looks like that rain will be staying to our south. And we'll get you a full look at your weather coming up in a little bit. In the meantime, let's get you some national news. Take a look at Capitol Hill. Just saw it appeared President Trump was on his way back, I believe. He's been traveling. Saw him stepping off a plane moments ago. We're just looking at the Capitol building here in Washington, D.C. While the president was out of the country, in Europe and specifically in France to mark the 75th anniversary of the D-Day invasion, talks have continued with Mexico to try and prevent new tariffs from taking hold on Monday. Fox's Doug Luzader reports from Washington with more on what the administration would like to see. All right, here I've got this report for you.
May be a last chance to prevent new tariffs on Mexico.
Additional talks are about to begin in Washington to come to some kind of agreement on immigration, or the Trump administration is promising to follow through on the tariff threat, Doug.
All right, Doug, lay it on us.
Yeah, there's a whole schedule of tariffs, right, that take effect through the course of the summer, topping off at 25% in October. But that first level hits on Monday, 5%, and that's what Mexico is trying to head off.
The markets, at least, seem to think that an agreement with Mexico is close at hand, with a bit of a rally yesterday despite jitters over possible tariffs. But Mexico's chief negotiator doesn't seem so sure.
Are you more or less optimistic than you were last night when we spoke?
That so-so hand gesture seems to say it all. The White House tried to tamp down talk of an imminent deal yesterday, but both sides indicated progress with Mexico's proposals to clamp down on the flow of migrants. New video from Customs and Border Protection drives home the extent of the problem, though, and President Trump said he is serious about the tariffs during an interview in Normandy, France.
When you're the piggy bank that everybody steals and robs from and they deceive you and like they've been doing for 25 years, tariffs are a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful word if you know how to use them properly.
But those tariffs, if implemented, will affect a whole range of products and ultimately cost both businesses and consumers here at home.
I think the Mexicans feeling that he's being unreasonable in their demands, are going to try to let domestic pressures here force Trump to relent.
And there are some domestic pressures, there's no question. Now, what the administration would really like to see here is a change in the way the asylum rules apply to Mexico. So Central American migrants would have to actually make their asylum claims in Mexico rather than the United States. We'll see whether that's part of a final deal. If there is a final deal, today's really the last day of negotiations. Mike and Alex.
All right. Hi, Doug. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday. We'll all know by then,
Yes.
apparently so.
Yes, we will.
Thank you to Doug for that report. Let's stay with national news for the moment. And we are keeping an eye on a couple of events ongoing live that we hope to get you out to, like that NASA news conference. I understand there's also one where Attorney General Barr and Christopher Wray are expected to speak. It looks like that NASA event may be underway now, so let's listen in to that.
But today, you're part of that activity as we think about how this space station we put together to do research, to do education, to do outreach, to do development is now going to be used to help put together a business plan, a business model. So this is an exciting day for all of us today. More than 50 companies are already conducting commercial research and development on the space station via the International Space Station U.S. National Laboratory, and their results are yielding great promise. In addition, NASA has worked with 11 different companies to install 14 commercial facilities on the space station that support research and development projects for NASA and the ISS National Lab. Many of these companies are represented here today. We have no idea what kinds of creativity and literally out-of-the-world ideas can come from private industry. We've tried to define many of the key parameters necessary for a company to build a business plan. However, the market and services that can be used to generate revenue will need to be generated by the creative and entrepreneurial private sector. We've given you the basic roadmap. Robin's laid out all the 5 components that we've got together. We've got all the pieces, but it's now up to you to use your creativity, your ingenuity, and figure out how you can generate potentially revenue from these pieces. We'll work together with you as Robin described. We don't have it perfect the first time around. We'll receive comments back from you, and we'll figure out a way to keep moving forward. This plan does not conflict with the government needs for the space station, nor the Center for Advancement of Science and Space cases that manages the ISS National Lab, but it allows the private sector access to the most amazing research facility ever built by humankind. So you can use this facility to generate revenue for yourselves. This is a huge, different way for us doing business. NASA's activities we have described today stimulate and enable the next step in development of an emerging market, and we expect to learn and make adjustments. The private sector will have the opportunity to think creatively and create new markets. NASA's approach is designed to lower but not totally remove the risk from the private sector entrepreneurs and companies. NASA's goal is ultimately to be one of many users in the next generation of low Earth orbit research facilities. NASA is allowing the private sector access to the International Space Station to enable the next generation of low Earth orbit research facilities. NASA, by its very nature, is an exploration agency. We like to challenge the status quo and discover new things. We like to solve impossible problems and do amazing things. NASA only realizes that we need help. NASA realizes that we need help. We can't do this alone. We need everyone to help us moving forward. We're reaching out to the U.S. private sector to see if you can push the economic frontier into space. This is a shift for NASA that will be beneficial for the American economy and for the American citizens. The commercialization of low Earth orbit will enable NASA to focus resources to land the first woman and the next man on the moon by 2024 as the first phase in creating a sustainable lunar presence and preparing for missions to Mars. We are moving human presence into the solar system, and U.S. private sector will be a part of that endeavor. We welcome the private sector and business sectors to our team. Thank you especially to all of you for coming here today to be part of this activity. Christine Koch, one of our crew members currently working on the International Space Station, will now share some of her thoughts from space.
Hi, I'm astronaut Christina Koch. Those of us who have had the privilege to live and work aboard the International Space Station over the last 20 years know what an incredible experience it is, and the unique value of the microgravity environment for research, development, and technology advancement. We are so excited to be part of NASA as our home and laboratory in space transitions into being accessible to expanded commercial and marketing opportunities, as well as to private astronauts. Enabling a vibrant economy in low Earth orbit has always been a driving element of the space station program, and will make space more accessible to all Americans. Transitioning toward this new model of business is an important step to enable NASA to move full speed ahead toward our goal of landing the first woman and the next man on the moon. Commercial companies will play an important role both here in low Earth orbit and around the moon, working with NASA to test technologies, train astronauts, and develop a sustainable human presence.
We're sure you have questions now. There's a lot of information to take in. We will take questions. We'll start in the room for reporters. Please raise your hand. There should be a microphone. Let's see. Do we have somebody who can run the microphone around? And then for reporters who are dialed in on the line, please make sure that you dial *1 on your phone to get into the queue to ask a question. In the room, raise your hand. Please state your name and affiliation and to whom you're directing your question. Please ask only one question so everybody will have an opportunity. And we'll go ahead and get started with Lauren.
Lauren Grush with The Verge. Thanks for taking my question. So I'd really love some clarification about what was prohibited before this announcement and what is exactly changing, and what is the legislation that is in place, or was any legislation needed in order for this change to take place? Thank you.
Robin, that's probably you.
Probably Kirst or Robin.
Robin, I'll take a piece.
Yeah, so what is changing is before we've had the ISS National Laboratory that operates and brings in and stimulates demand for low Earth orbit. And they're focused on, and their mandate is for research and development activities, but not for, if a manufacturing effort turns into a for-profit activity or activities like marketing and advertising, that's beyond the mandate. So we wanted to open that up for commercial companies to participate in those kinds of activities. No legislative change was required to do that. It's simply a policy change on NASA's part.
So that's the NASA interim directive. If you look for that, that outlines what is now enabled and prohibited.
Mm-hmm. So this was always an option that you could have had. It's just a policy change within NASA.
And I think the other thing that's important is we've actually defined it. So you can go out and look at this, and you can see exactly what's allowed, what's not allowed. There's certain things, if the private astronaut goes to station, the breadth of activities they can participate in is much broader. They can do more activities. It also clarifies some of the roles of NASA. So what we try to do is remove some of the ambiguity that sat out there before with the legislation authority we had, try to define it in a way that we think is forward-leaning and lets companies then take an advantage and generate some revenue in space. So again, we open this up. This is the beginning. We can get some iteration. We look for some comments back. If it's still too restrictive from a commercial perspective, that's comments that come back to us, and then we could go pursue legislation. So this is the beginning of us actively starting an open dialogue with industry to figure out how we can open up space to the commercial activities where revenue can be generated for private sector companies. And that's a very different way. So we leverage off of what we've got. We know it may not be sufficient, but it's defined. People can see it. They can represent and ask questions to us, and we can change and move forward. So this is going to be a growing and learning experience for both of us.
If I can toss one more thing in, which is we didn't need any policy change, but we did have some teams. Doug Comstock and his group met with our key stakeholders up on the Hill in the House, the Senate, and with OMB, and the response that we've been getting from our key stakeholders is very positive towards this move.
And it's an allocation as well. So NASA is setting aside 5% of NASA's resources on the station to enable these activities. Okay, next question.
Hi, Miriam Kringer with Axios. So I'm sort of curious. I know that this is just the beginning, but when you're looking to, maybe 10 years out or 9 years out, what does the space station look like at that point? Are we just having private astronauts there? What's the deal with the space station?
I mean, there's a couple of views, but I think, eventually the space station we have, the International Space Station, will wear out. The physical hardware won't be able to be maintained. It'll become cost prohibitive for us to keep us operating. So the vision here is to start early, so then there could be potentially a private sector station that serves NASA's needs. So the fifth point that Robin talked about is what we envision as NASA's future needs. So we can say in the future we intend to buy these kind of services, these kind of things, or things that we want to do. Then if that marries with what a private sector space station would like to do for their own revenue generating things, we can show them what our portion of the market is. So I think what we're doing is we're trying to be proactive. We recognize there's a physical end to the space station just because of its life. Now is the time to start proactively having those discussions, because we know it'll take time for the private sector to come up, to go see how this comes together and moves forward. So that's the intent of what we're trying to do.
Great, next question.
Michael Sheets with CNBC. Two questions on the private astronaut aspect of this. First, how many astronauts per year would you expect to fly underneath this proposal? And second, will these astronauts be facilitated through NASA, or will NASA just be giving the okay to the private companies to sell seats on their rides?
So we're enabling up to 2 commercial flights with private astronauts per year. So depending on how many seats they want to carry, that would be a dozen or so private astronauts potentially per year on the International Space Station. Second part of your question?
The second part is as far as the facilitation of, will NASA be the one selling those seats, or?
No.
Okay.
We're looking to the private sector to do that. And so again, what we did was we developed the commercial crew program to take our astronauts to station, but that program was designed to begin with that anyone could go buy those transportation services. So we're looking to the private sector to do the training, to do the transportation, to work out the accommodations, to be the interface between the individuals that want to fly, the private astronauts, and us. So we expect this private sector companies to go do all that work. And we think we put all the pieces in place that enable them to go work. But that's a lot of work for them to do. There's a lot of companies, a lot of interfaces they got to put together. It's not trivial for them to go out and just make an arrangement to fly someone. They're going to have to work with a myriad of companies to figure out how to make it happen. But that's part of this challenge that we've given to them, to see if the private sector can step up and put all that together to enable this. But we've enabled the facility. We've defined what use can be done. We've tried to provide the parameters such that the private sector then can take those parameters, put it together, and work up a business case.
And on that first question about the demand side of things, have those private companies given you a good forecast on that's a good place to start with 2 a year, and then maybe scale from there, as far as, because these are not cheap rides, they're multiple tens of millions of dollars each ride?
We're going to reevaluate the pricing every 6 months, is what we have written in right now, and you'll see that on the website. And you're absolutely correct about the cost. So NASA will be involved in the fact that if a private astronaut is on station, they will have to pay us while they're there for the life support, the food, the water, things of that nature. The ride to get there, as you know, right now we pay about $80 million a seat for our own astronauts to go. If you average out the commercial crew program, our cost is coming down to about $58 million a seat. So theoretically, a private astronaut, I would expect the price to be in that range. They'd have to, the 2 companies right now that can do it are Boeing and SpaceX. And so they would have to contract with them, and whatever prices Boeing and SpaceX set is on them. But then when they get to station, there will be a cost for station. And it's back. It's not. If you look at the pricing and you add it up back of the napkin, it would be roughly about $35,000 a night per astronaut. But it won't come with any Hilton or Marriott points.
Okay, do we have other questions in the room from reporters? There's the hand over there.
Hi, Hanukkah Weidering with Space.com. I'm wondering if the private astronauts will be trained to do spacewalks, to do repairs and maintenance outside of the station.
We don't envision that initially. You can go pull the policy and you can take a look and see what we've defined, but we don't see that as a capability. And again, kind of going back to the other question a little bit, through the studies, we saw that this private astronaut was one of the things that there was a lot of interest from the companies that participated in the studies. If you read the studies, there's lots of variability about whether this is viable or not viable. There's speculation on how many numbers there are. So then again, this is our chance to actually test and see what's available in the market. But initially, no spacewalk.
Our own astronauts will still be there, manning the station, doing all the external repairs. This is an opportunity for private astronauts to be inside station doing their own research and development.
And it's really a first step. We can offer this now before a company potentially puts a private module on the space station or flies a free flyer. So it's kind of a crawl before you walk approach, and gives companies an opportunity to fly using the resources we have today.
Thank you. There's a question here in the room. Right by you, Mary Beth. Yep.
Hi, Ken Chang, New York Times. The idea of a commercial module on ISS dates back to the previous administrator and the previous administration. So I was wondering, what's being announced today, is that this a fruition of those early efforts? Has it changed yet? And conversely, was there resistance within NASA that partially explains why it's taken 3 years for this to be announced?
I think what we're doing today is we thought it was important to describe the entire commercial market the way we see it. So not just focus on just the attachment of a module to station through a port, or focus on just a free flyer, or focus just on private astronaut missions, or focus on what NASA's future needs are. We thought it was best if we could take the entire commercial front as we see it from a NASA perspective, and this is what we saw from the studies, and we're responding to the studies. If we could put all that out at once.
You've been watching NASA talking about their plans to open the International Space Station to more commerce. Right now we're going to take you to FBI Director Christopher Wray addressing FBI's graduation. Let's listen into his remarks there.
When we come back at night, and thank you for being here and for all of your sacrifices and support. And to the members of the 276th, you made it, even though it sounded like it felt like 10 years instead of 10 weeks. You've joined the ranks of a whole lot of distinguished graduates who came before you. You know, back in 1935, when the FBI Police Training School opened its doors to the first 23 students, I'm pretty sure that no one imagined we'd all be here later watching our 276th graduation. And while each session has been different in its own way, there is one question that comes up almost every single time. Is there anyone here who can translate for the foreign students, especially those from places like Louisiana and Mississippi and Tennessee and Maine? Speaking of foreign students, I especially want to thank our international colleagues for being here. This session, Session 276, had 35 international students, which is the most we've ever had in a single session. So thank you, all of you, for bringing your invaluable perspectives to the National Academy and for adding so much to this experience, both personally and professionally. 10 weeks ago, all of you came to Quantico from places as different and far-flung as Bahrain and Boise and Helsinki and Houston. And you arrived here mostly as strangers, but you leave today as lifelong friends. And those friendships mean that you can pick up the phone day or night, just about anywhere around the world, and find someone who will stand beside you in the toughest of circumstances, or provide some key insight that you might not otherwise have considered. And forging those friendships, those partnerships, is what the National Academy does best. As the world becomes smaller and the perils loom larger, we've learned that a threat to one of us is often a threat to all of us. And we've learned that working together isn't just the only option, it's really the best option. For more than 80 years, this program has served as a bridge that connects state and local law enforcement to international law enforcement. And today you join the ranks of more than 50,000 graduates from more than 170 countries. To put that in perspective, there are tens of thousands of those yellow bricks on desks and bookcases all across the country and all around the world. Tens of thousands of bricks that have helped us pave the way for global law enforcement cooperation. That cooperation begins here, but it can't end here. Your bricks don't just represent a challenge. In many ways, they themselves are a challenge to build on this foundation after you leave the academy, a challenge to stay in touch, and to continue helping each other throughout the rest of your careers. So this session is ending, but the work, your work, is far from done. It's up to you now to ensure that the network you see in this auditorium grows larger and stronger, and that yellow brick road becomes longer and wider. We all know your jobs are far from easy, but today you have more than 250 new partners standing by ready to help you in any way they can. And that bond of trust and teamwork represents the best of who we are as a profession and what we can accomplish when we all work together. According to our FBI records, when Bill Barr served as our nation's 77th Attorney General back in the 90s, he never had the chance to attend a graduation here at the FBI Academy. So today, during his tenure as our 85th Attorney General, it's a great honor for us to welcome him to Quantico for a National Academy graduation. Last month, you noted that during your first tenure as AG, forging a strong relationship with our state and local partners was essential to achieving our common mission. And as I'm confident that you've discovered that since coming back to DOJ, that you now see that the scope and range of today's threats make your statement truer than ever. And there's no better example of our commitment to forging strong partnerships than the National Academy, where we train some of the finest law enforcement officers and leaders from here at home and around the world. To the outstanding graduates of the 276, thank you again for being a part of the National Academy, for your support of the FBI, and for all you do and will do for law enforcement. And now, please join me in extending a very warm welcome to my friend, the Attorney General of the United States, Bill Barr.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris, for your introduction and for your outstanding leadership of the world's preeminent investigative agency. As Chris said, and as most of you know, I'm a two-time offender. This is my second stint as Attorney General. My arrival this time was a little bit more eventful than I recall it being the last time. As we've been watching the coverage of June 6, 1944 D-Day, I had the thought that my arrival this time felt a little bit, I think, like jumping into San Miraglese on the morning of June 5th, trying to figure out where you could land without getting shot. But it was a delight after I arrived to find the FBI in such good hands and to find such a great partners in Chris and his leadership team at the Bureau. The last time I was in the Department of Justice, I'd have to say that it was the greatest pleasure and pride for me was in fact the association with the FBI and the great men and women in our law enforcement community. And people ask me today, do I regret having come into the government? And the answer is a resounding no. And it's a no because once again I have the opportunity to work with the outstanding men and women of the Bureau and our nation's law enforcement leaders. It's been 25 years since I've been at Quantico. I used to come here a lot when I was a Deputy Attorney General and Attorney General. My children at that time, all three girls, were 7 to 13 years old, and they used to like to come down for lead therapy. The HRT took them under their wing, and they had the opportunity to learn how to shoot sniper rifles and, in those days, MP5s and so forth. Just little kids, and it was a delight. Now, they went to this Catholic girls' school, convent school, and they used to show up on Monday morning very proud of the very tight grouping around the headshots that they had achieved with the MP5s, and the nuns who, let's be honest, they were a little liberal in those days. They said, very nice girls, very nice girls. Not surprisingly, all three of them ended up serving in U.S. attorneys' offices. People also ask me, what's the big difference between 28 years ago and today? And, I thought, well, it could be the internet, it could be cell phones, it could be a lot of different things, but I think I'd sum up the biggest difference in 2 words: challenge coins. They weren't around, and when I first arrived and people started shaking my hand and putting these things in my hand, what is this all about? It's now a great tradition, but it poses a significant problem for someone like me, because when I am at events with a lot of challenge coins being put in my hand, I generally put them in my pocket. And when you are like me and have a disturbing differential between your waistline and your hip line, your pants start falling down at these events. So I don't go to them anymore unless I'm wearing suspenders. Above all today, what I'd like to do, and it's an honor to be here at this graduation, and it's my first one, and I'd like to graduate the 256 graduates of the 276th session of the FBI's National Academy. And I want to congratulate the families of today's graduates. It's difficult to be a law enforcement family. You shoulder the stresses and the challenges involved in your loved one's work, and you make the sacrifice too. And so I want to thank all of you for being here. Our graduates, as you all know, today come from a wide variety of backgrounds, 49 states in the District of Columbia and a record high 35 foreign nations. But you share a common mission and a record of personal excellence. Admission to the National Academy is highly competitive and selective, and you represent the very best of the leadership of the ranks of law enforcement in this country and around the world. One thing that's manifest to me, just coming in after 28 years, is the pride we can take in law enforcement's high level of professionalism, a professionalism that has been achieved over the past decades, and you exemplify that. By focusing on training, technology, best practices, and above all, cooperation, law enforcement in the United States and among our allies has reached new levels of excellence and allowed us to achieve historic reductions in crime. Of course, we're always striving to reach even greater heights, and the National Academy remains at the very center of this effort. I think you all know that the experience here is not all about learning from your instructors. It's also about learning from each other and building the relationships and trust that is so essential for our collective action. We're building a national and worldwide network of law enforcement excellence, a network that, through cooperation, allows us to meet the great challenges we all face. I've always believed that none of us can succeed in our responsibilities without cooperation. And in 1992, when I last served, violent crime was at its highest rate in our nation's history. It had trebled over the preceding 30 years. And my priority was addressing this by building a tight partnership with our state and local colleagues. And over the past 3 decades, violent crime has now been halved. Fortunately, 92 was the peak, and it has decreased from then on. And it has been cooperation and joint action that has allowed us to do this. At that time, I had an office that focused exclusively on our relationships with state and local law enforcement. And I was disappointed when I returned to find that that office no longer existed. But last month, during Police Week, I ordered it to be reestablished, and it has just been stood up this week with a number of full-time professionals who will focus exclusively on communications and cooperation, building cooperation with our state and local partners. Also 30 years ago, we stood up the Office of International Affairs in the Office of the Attorney General, and we expanded the FBI's LEGAT program, and we built up a web of bilateral and multilateral agreements to facilitate our cooperation on international law enforcement matters, including drug trafficking and, in those days, the emerging scourge of terrorism. And I learned firsthand just how valuable it is to have law enforcement allies around the world. One of the formative experiences in my life was dealing with the Pan Am 103 bombing. And in that investigation, we worked closely with the Strathclyde police on one of the most complex and exhaustive investigations in history. And the Scottish police, along with the FBI, conducted a brilliant and unrelated. The crime scene was 845 square miles, and Scottish authorities searched it inch by inch, month after month, through fields, forests, lakes, and towns. And this painstaking search led to the key evidence, which was a fragment of a board the size of a fingernail. It was that evidence that ultimately led us to the perpetrators. It was in those days, it was an unprecedented cooperative effort involving not just the United States, the FBI, and the UK, but many other countries as well. And it left a deep impression on the Department of Justice and on me personally. Over the years, as Director Wray has just mentioned, this international cooperation has become imperative. Let me read you this quaint remark written over 100 years ago by the famous economist John Maynard Keynes. This was written before the First World War. He says, "The inhabitants of London could order by telephone, sipping his morning tea in bed, the various products of the whole earth, in such quantity as he might see fit, and reasonably expect their early delivery upon his doorstep. He could at the same moment and by the same means adventure his wealth in the natural resources and the new enterprises of any quarter of the world without exertion or even trouble in their prospective fruits and advantages." Little could Keynes have imagined the internet age, the interconnected digital world of today, and the rapid transportation and the reduction of transportation and communication costs. This all bears directly on the work of law enforcement. Just as it's never been easier for us to work together, it's never been easier for criminals to work together. In a matter of seconds, a terrorist in India can communicate with a sympathizer in Indiana. A gang leader in El Salvador can order a killing in Boston. Funds can be moved with a click of a mouse. The gravest threats to society today, terrorism, drug trafficking, human trafficking, cyber threats, and even elder fraud, are increasingly national and even international in scope. This makes cooperation more important than ever. And it's why the relationship and the shared understanding and the trust that are built here at the National Academy are also more important than ever. By building this global network of excellence in law enforcement, we all benefit. And so, to today's graduates, thank you for your willingness to serve your communities, your commitment to this rigorous training, and your partnership with us at the FBI and the Department of Justice. We all serve on the same team. We stand for justice, and we stand for public safety. And as we return to work today, we will all press on together. And rest assured, as Attorney General Sessions, my predecessor, frequently said, we have your back and you have our thanks. Thank you very much.
You've been watching U.S. Attorney General William Barr speaking at the FBI Academy's graduation. It looks like our feed is done there. Taking you back live to the Benjamin Franklin Parkway right now. Let's get you a quick breaking news story that I just saw across. Authorities say they've arrested a New York man who talked of wanting to throw a grenade in Times Square. That is the full report we have at the moment. We'll get you more information on that as time allows. Let's just make sure that there's no more information immediately available here. There is. This is from the Associated Press. Authorities say they've arrested a New York man who talked about wanting to throw a grenade in Times Square. 2 law enforcement officials told the AP the man was placed under investigation over the comments and then arrested late Thursday after trying to buy a weapon. He's facing weapons-related charges. The officials spoke on condition of anonymity because the charges hadn't been made public yet. They called the man's statements, quote, aspirational, end quote, and never reached a stage that endangered the public. The man is expected to be arraigned Friday at a federal court in Brooklyn. Times Square has been the target of attacks before. An Islamic militant tried to detonate a car bomb there in 2010. In 2017, a man detonated a bomb in a tunnel linking the square to a bus terminal. So if we get more information about that or a court appearance or anything, we'll try to get you out there. In the meantime, let's get back to some of the news reports we intend to bring you here. On the campaign trail, Vice President Joe Biden says former Vice President, says he no longer supports a long-standing congressional ban on using federal health care money to pay for abortions. The former VP made the announcement yesterday, reversing course on the Hyde Amendment. He says keeping it would prevent poor women from exercising their constitutional rights to terminate a pregnancy. And he says when he supported it, it was because he thought that there was wide enough access to abortion services without any Medicaid
that
or
Russia
other government
and Putin are
support
responsible for hacking the Democratic files in order to impact on the...
No more robocalls. The new measure by the FCC to put an end to those annoying spam calls. Fox Business Network's Tracy Carrasco has more of this conversation from Good Day Philadelphia this morning.
All right, let's get this robocall thing straightened out.
Because the FCC is now getting involved, and supposedly they're going to make things a lot harder for robocallers. And forgive me, Tracy, if I'm a little skeptical, because I feel like, remember when they said you can get yourself on the do not call list and they won't ever call you? Well, that didn't work.
No. So what's the plan?
Yeah. Well, the FCC passed a new ruling that says phone companies can block robocalls before they ever get to your landline or your mobile device. And this was previously something that you could opt into, this call blocking tool that would block the robocalls. But now this is just going to be the default. So this could definitely cut down on those robocalls. Unclear exactly if the service providers, if they're going to charge for it. There was something else that the FCC ruled on yesterday. It would allow you to opt into, it would allow the phone companies to block any calls that are not in your contact list, but you have to opt into that one. But I think we're finally making progress. One thing with the new Apple iOS 13 that's supposed to come out later this year, they've got a feature also that will only allow numbers from your contacts, from text messages, from emails. Anyone else will go to voicemail automatically. So that could also help in the future as well. So I think the combination of both, maybe we will get less of these annoying calls.
Well,
I don't know if that might be too far, because sometimes
Right.
someone might be calling you from a number you don't recognize, but you still want to see it, or you might want to talk to them if you haven't
you
seen
don't
it.
remember that you met them last night in some Manhattan bar.
Oh.
No, that's not true.
Well, not Tracy. She's now a married woman.
Well, that's true. That's very.
Unless it was for business purposes.
I do need to know before you go, Tracy. Did you think I was a robocaller because you blocked me?
Oh.
I don't even have your number.
Are you sure? Yeah.
I'm sure.
Okay.
She's like, no, I know I don't have
You
your
never
number.
gave it to me.
Have a good weekend. We'll see you Monday.
Thanks. See you Monday.
Let's get you a look at your weather forecast. Right now we're looking at Ultimate Doppler. Again, that rain almost looks stationary. It looks like it's moving very slowly, but we do not expect it to get to our area. Should be, from what Sue Sario has been saying, it should be a nice dry weekend for the most part. Let's get you a look at the current conditions again. 76 right now in the city. Dew point 60. Winds out of the east at 8 miles an hour, so a little bit of a breeze out there. Here are your current temps around the region. 70s most places, a couple holdouts. Pottstown and Mount Pocono still in the 60s. 70s up and down the eastern seaboard for the most part. Until you get down south along the Gulf Coast, temperatures in the mid to upper mid 80s. 87 in Miami, 85 in Tampa, 84 in New Orleans, 82 in Houston, 80 over in El Paso, Texas, 81 in Phoenix, and 50s on the west coast right now. Heartland in pretty much in the 70s as well as the northwest, the Midwest, I should say. Temperature change, it's a little bit cooler out there most places than it was at the same hour yesterday. 3 degrees in Philadelphia being the difference. Here are your winds, single digits most places. Wilmington, Dover, and Wildwood at 10 to 12 miles per hour. And not much to speak of in terms of gusts. Most of the winds coming out of the northeast. Visibility, generally excellent. Satellite, not a lot of cloud cover, but there is some, especially over the northern suburbs. Here's a look at your future cast for the next couple days. There you see that rain stubbornly staying to our south. Not moving much either. 7-day forecast from the Fox 29 Weather Authority. Right now, mostly sunny. 83 is the call for today as the Phillies come back home. Saturday, mostly sunny, 82. 65 for an 80-night low. Sunday, sun to clouds, 79. We're calling all 3 of these days an 8 on our Fox 29 forecast, weather forecast by the numbers. Monday looks like the rainy day, 77 degrees. Tuesday, AM showers, PM sun, 78 for a high. Sunny and dry Wednesday, 74. Thursday, shower chance, 76. We're getting to that point of the year where, on Tuesday, it looks like our low and you're only getting down to a 70-degree overnight low. So it's going to be pretty warm. Not the greatest sleeping night, perhaps, but I like those nights in the 50s and 60s. But maybe toward the end of the next work week, we'll be back there. All right, in local news, in Bucks County, a shooting at a 7-Eleven in Langhorne has multiple police agencies investigating. Our Sabina Kuriakos was at the scene and had this report.
So this appears to be a botched armed robbery in which we believe, and published reports indicate, that police responded and at least one officer opened fire on an apparent suspect of this armed robbery. This happened at this 7-Eleven on North Pine Street in Langhorne. It all went down between 9:30 and 11 o'clock last night. Let's go to video to show you the scene. We had FBI agents responding from the Evidence Response Unit. We also had officers from the Ben Salem Township Police, Middletown Township Police, Langhorne Borough Police, along with several other agencies responding, including the Bucks County District Attorney's Office. Again, what we are hearing and what we believe is that this was an attempted robbery where police responded and an officer, we don't know from which agency, but apparently opened fire and shot a man. We don't know the condition or the severity of that man's injuries. It appears he was taken to a local hospital. Bringing it back out here again, the 7-Eleven remains open this morning as the investigation continues. We have reached out to all of the agencies involved and we are waiting for a response. We do know that this 7-Eleven has been the target of several burglaries in the past, and in fact there has been a rash of convenience store burglaries all throughout Bucks County in the last couple of months, and we believe that that is a possible explanation for why the FBI was here yesterday. If they were attempting to tackle the problem of the convenience store burglaries in the county, it makes sense that the FBI would be here and would be a part of the response. But again, we are waiting for officials to confirm many more details, and once we have them, we'll let you know. For now, Sabina Kuriakos, Fox 29 News, back to you.
Thank you for that report, Sabina. Police have now identified the suspect who they say shot two teens. There we go. Wednesday at a busy SEPTA station, 22-year-old Isaac Orsini is charged with aggravated assault for shooting a 16-year-old and 18-year-old, police say. It happened on the northbound side of the City Hall station on the Broad Street line. Both victims are expected to be okay. Police haven't said what led up to the shooting. People will rally outside Philadelphia Police Headquarters today at noon, calling for 10 police officers to be kicked off the force after they allegedly posted racist or violent comments on social media. The officers' posts were part of a national investigation by the database group Plainview Project. It found more than 300 posts by former and current Philadelphia officers that are at times racist and appear to incite violence. That being the posts, those 300 posts. 10 officers in question are off the streets while Philly police and a law firm investigate. Police Commissioner Richard Ross calls the comments deeply disturbing. Police say they will also institute anti-bias training.
They're not only bold, but more tragic than that, they feel they're in an environment where they have a comfort level now that they can do this kind of thing on a public platform and there are no consequences. And that's where we're calling on the high command. Those were the comments of Minister Rodney Muhammad, president of the Philadelphia NAACP. Police Commissioner Richard Ross calls the comments, we mentioned this, deeply disturbing, and police do say they're going to be instituting anti-bias training.
He's like Ted Bundy. The guy deserves whatever he gets.
In Burlington County, a father's broken heart on display in a Willingboro courtroom. Raw emotion from the father of the 15-year-old girl who died from a heroin overdose at the hands of 22-year-old Austin Cooper. Yesterday, a judge sentenced him to 8 years behind bars after prosecutors say he brought 10 bags of heroin to Madison McDonald's Marlton home before she died. Her father says he found her unresponsive the day after Christmas in 2017. He says life has been unbearable since.
I will never have the opportunity to celebrate Christmas again in my life. She was my little baby, and he took my little girl
Cooper must serve at least 85% of his prison term before he's eligible for parole. The Democratic leader of the Pennsylvania State Senate is calling for State Senator Dalen Leach to resign. It comes after he says an investigation of sexual misconduct claims found a lengthy pattern of troubling behavior. The probe found there was no evidence of actionable discrimination or harassment, but it says Leach's humor was, quote, immature and unprofessional, end quote. Minority Leader Jay Costa says Leach's actions created an unprofessional and sexualized environment that shouldn't be tolerated. Leach has maintained his innocence and says he feels vindicated after reading the findings, but Costa says the report in no way clears him of wrongdoing. The Lakewood Blue Claws organized a Pride Night event for tomorrow's home game to celebrate LGBTQ Pride Month. That's when a rabbi named Yehuda Levin started speaking out. He's known for his anti-gay remarks and is asking members of the Orthodox community to protest outside First Energy Stadium in Lakewood Township. But many fans don't agree with his message.
They're pushing this stuff in the school systems. They're pushing this stuff in the libraries. They're pushing this stuff with adoptions. They're pushing themselves with transsexual bathrooms. They're pushing this stuff displaying. This is not talking about censorship looks. Displaying pride in behavior or misbehavior of a bedroom sort. And basically we're saying as follows. You have your Greenwich Village. You have your San Francisco. You have a million places we can do this. Why do you have to come and impose this?
All of my friends are very supportive. Anybody that is supportive is here. I'm also Jewish, so to know that the community that I currently live in is against this it's horrible. I mean, I understand it. I understand their reasoning, but there is no reason to be protesting a night that is just about love and happiness and pride.
The Blue Claws issued a statement saying the event will go on and that, quote, it's unfortunate that some individuals are choosing to display intolerance rather than embrace the true spirit of the night. We look forward to Blue Claws Pride Night on Saturday.
Let's get to the bottom of this, if we can. Every day this week, we have told you about it.
So new details bring new questions. Authorities in the Dominican Republic released the cause of death of 3 American tourists who died there last month. Why the reports are raising new concerns about the deaths possibly being related, here's the conversation from Good Day Philadelphia this morning.
Let's get to the bottom of this, if we can. Every day this week, we have told you about an American death at resorts in the Dominican Republic.
And right now, we know of 5 people who died on vacation either this year or last year, including some from our area. So this morning, there's new information on the deaths that happened this year. Miranda of Allentown and an engaged couple, Cynthia Day and Nathaniel Holmes of Maryland, died 5 days apart. They were staying at resort hotels owned by the same company, the Bahia Principe. The Washington Post is reporting their autopsies were similar, each suffering internal hemorrhaging. And they also had enlarged hearts. We'll get to those details with Dr. Mike in just a second.
There's also a Colorado couple suing the resort after claiming they got sick while vacationing there last year. That's a picture. It's Kaylin off from her Instagram page, where she posted about their trip to the Dominican Republic. After reading about the recent deaths, they go, wait a minute, remember when we got sick there? They were sick over a couple of days and decided to fly back to Colorado. She says she feels lucky to be alive. Well, joining us this morning to talk about these autopsy results, of course, is Dr. Mike, and attorney Fred Tisi is also here. So let's start with Dr. Mike. So was it pulmonary what?
Pulmonary edema. And so what's fascinating about this is that all 3 autopsies showed the same thing. Now, I have lungs here, and pulmonary edema is where you have fluid that builds up. All right, they found fluid in the lungs, pulmonary edema. They also found...
And why would the fluid build up?
Well, that's the million-dollar question.
Okay. Could it be something you're inhaling or something you smell?
It could be something. This is what we know. It happened quickly, and it was some kind of exposure either to a virus or a chemical. It also caused cardiomyopathy, an enlargement of the heart, and it also caused hemorrhaging throughout the body.
So, could you just say it was a heart attack?
No, it wasn't
No?
a heart attack. It was damage to the heart, like a myocarditis. That's where you have inflammation of the heart. It caused the heart to enlarge. And whatever it was extremely toxic and damaging to the body in all three cases.
How fast would the lungs fill up with that fluid?
It could be immediately.
Immediately. Wow.
If they were exposed to something in the air, a chemical, or perhaps some exposure to a chemical, or viruses, although it doesn't smell like a virus to me, or it's certainly not the flu.
It could be a chemical they used to clean the room, or maybe for around the gardens and stuff like that.
Well,
or a pesticide.
I'm glad my attorney is here because I smell a rat.
Well, it's interesting, Fred Tisi, hello.
Good morning.
Because when it comes to the Colorado couple, or is it the Maryland couple, the ones that are still living who were able to file the lawsuit?
That's a Colorado.
Yeah, the Colorado couple. Yep. They said they asked the hotel because they were feeling sick, so they left immediately. What chemicals are using? What pesticides? And the hotel refused to give it.
Yeah.
If you go to a hotel and you're feeling sick and you think it might be something, they can refuse to tell you what they're using.
Well,
Different
discretion
country.
is a better part of valor, right? They should have probably said what they were using. But this doesn't, as Dr. Mike would say, this doesn't smell like a pesticide problem to me, because I think you'd have more people reporting that they're sick. One doctor's toxin, another doctor's chemical is a former prosecutor's poison. And to me, there's some very, very troubling things about this. First of all, we have 5 people, all of whom were very young, too young to die, all right? That's the first red flag. Secondly, I've heard the testimony, or I've heard the statements of 2 of these people, that 2 of the decedents took a drink from the hotel minibar and then had a rapid onset of the symptoms that Dr. Mike has described, which is consistent with being poisoned, right? And then we have someone else the other 2 people who just died. So you, as a prosecutor, you cannot rule out the possibility, irrespective of how remote, that somebody is doing something very nefarious to these people.
Hurt the people.
To try and hurt them. And why are they just Americans? I haven't heard any stories of anybody else going to any of these resorts, suffering from any other country, suffering from the kind of same symptoms that Dr. Mike has described and that we're seeing in these people.
Now we're really speculating, but somebody, an employee with a vendetta against the United States or something like that. I mean, it's a possibility.
It is a possibility. And when you're involved in law enforcement, it's your job to find out what killed 5 young people, and it's also your job to make sure that this never, ever, ever happens again. And at this stage, with this much evidence right now, to eliminate or not consider, again, no matter how remote, to not consider the possibility that these people are being poisoned is a mistake.
But as from the hotel's perspective, because they've now had a press conference and they were saying, hey, people die. This just happens. It's a big hotel. You know,
people do die. They die like when they're in their 70s and their 80s and their 90s. They don't drop dead when they're in their 50s.
Well, they
and
say
their
there's
40s.
maybe 7 million people visit the island a year. We're talking about a few deaths.
Go ahead.
I think. I mean, if you look at the pictures of those folks, I mean, they don't reek illness to me.
But could it be a pre-existing condition that combined with something else could have caused it?
Look at them. Now, do they look like they're dying? Do they look like they have a medical condition that is so bad that not one of them, but both of them tank? I don't buy it. I think that there is an exposure here. That's all I can say.
Right.
Now, there are chemicals, sodium azide. There are these salts. There are chemicals that if you ingest, they can be colorless, they can be odorless, and if you get exposed to them, they can cause a rapid decrease in many bodily functions and lead to death. And so I think we need toxicology reports.
Which is going to take another month. And another big problem is it's another country.
It is, but you know, I mean, I'm not willing to say that their law enforcement capabilities are somehow compromised because it's another country. But again, when I hear 2 people say that the people took drinks from the minibar, I want to know where's the glass, where's the bottles, where's the liquid that they ingested? Why didn't they secure their rooms? Why weren't these things looked at? Why weren't they tested?
Immediately when the other guy said, my wife got a drink from the minibar, they should have sealed it off.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's troubling. I mean, the whole thing's very troubling to me.
Yeah.
It is.
We posed this question earlier. If you got a really good deal to the DR right now, would you even go? And some people are saying they're going anyway. Like this one here. She mentioned the same thing.
Says she's going tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So we'll see. Thank you both.
Thanks for having
me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Billy is you on the microphone. Hello, everyone. It all kicks off today. The first match of the Women's World Cup is today between the host country France and South Korea. The U.S. women's team will play for the first time on Tuesday against Thailand. You can watch the World Cup coverage right here on Fox 29. This morning, to get ready, we went and talked with the Lower Merion Soccer Club Furia about, and I believe a couple of their players are headed to the World Cup. Let's watch that segment from Good Day this morning.
Soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, starts today. So the host country, France, is going to play South Korea. Now, that's on FS1.
Yes.
So TMZ Live is still going to be on our station, okay? But the U.S. women's team is set for next week. What is it? Tuesday? Right, Tuesday. June the 11th.
So, watching women play in the biggest stage really has an impact on youth players around the world. The Furia from Lower Merion Soccer Club are one of the top-ranked teams in our region. So, photojournalist Bill Rohr caught up with them at a practice to see what impact the women's national team has on them.
Here we go.
Young women start their soccer dreams on fields like this one in Bryn Mawr.
Quickly.
The Fury of the Lower Merion Soccer Club has a tough practice.
All right, find a yellow triangle.
But these girls don't mind.
It's so fun to just be on the field with all your friends
and
playing something that you love to do.
Their love of the game started early.
4 or 5. 4 or 5, at those young peewee ages.
Good job, Joe.
Team together!
Their team motto is simple.
When you make a good pass, make a good shot, it just makes you feel so good. When you're with a team of people that support you and are there for you, it's just so amazing.
Together, back in February, Furia supported the U.S. women's national team at Talent Energy Stadium in Chester, cheering on their favorite players.
Mine's Alex Morgan because she's a striker and I'm a striker too.
Mine's Carly Lloyd and Alex Morgan. I like both.
I always loved Julie Johnson, who's now Julie Ertz, and actually my number, I got her number because of her. When she was in the World Cup, when she won, I have 26 because that was her number.
The U.S. national team will defend their World Cup title this summer in France. Their first match is less than a week, and that has Team Furia buzzing.
Women are really underrated in their sports and they don't play very high level. And just to see that our U.S. team is very good and to be able to inspire a lot of kids like us.
I think that it's they look up to potential heroes that they have within the sport, and I think a lot of times they're amazed as to where you can go with the game with continuous work and determination.
Most Furia players will watch the World Cup at home on TV. Sophia and Emma are the lucky ones who won't.
I just was like, oh, we're going to the World Cup. I'm like, okay, cool. They first told me I was going to France. I'm like, that's awesome. It's like, well, then we're going to see the World Cup. And I'm like, oh, that's even better.
Every dream has a beginning. The women playing on the U.S. national team started on a field just like this one, inspiring the girls of Furia to play hard, dream big, and have a little fun. In Bryn Mawr, Bill Rohr, Fox 29 News.
Oh, that's great. The influence of those players. And the giggling.
Yes,
That's
lots of fun.
Very good team. Soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, starts today. So the host country.
Hello again. Goodbye, guilt. Why your weekend needs to include plenty of booze, bread, and lying in bed. Your health depends on it. This was Dr. Mike joining us to talk about this topic.
I'm leafing through some medical brochures, and there's this brand new study out that says if you want to be healthy, you need 4 things in your life: carbohydrates, chocolate, alcohol, and a lot of sex.
Where did you find this?
I saw it in the New York Post. It's a doctor and his son did the study out of Connecticut, and Dr. Mike, tell me it's too good to be true, I suppose.
It has to be.
They didn't do a study. They looked at a lot of data, and
well, that's
it is what it is. It's called Good Vices. It's a book. It's cute. I think it's interesting. So what they did was they looked at data of things that we generally consider unhealthy. Mm-hmm. So let's just take one at a time. All right, alcohol. All right. Okay. So they said it's okay to have a little bit of alcohol. Well, the bottom line is that the World Health Organization said there is no safe level of alcohol. I have a bottle of Grand Marnier there because my wife and I, of 17 years, Elizabeth and I, have a little Grand Marnier every night.
And
Now,
that's the only way you're getting through this marriage, is what she told me.
well, that and she gets electroconvulsive therapy and a few other things
okay.
to help her. But the bottom line is that, yes, is it not the healthiest thing? But everything in moderation, and as I've said 5 trillion times, carpe diem. It's our thing.
Okay.
It's what we do. Right. And I want to have a quality of life. And that's basically what this book is talking about. So, now, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The next is carbohydrates. And there's no question that, like last night, now my wife is pretty much a vegetarian, and so I had a non-meat hamburger, but I like the roll because I'm Italian. I want some bread, so I got a whole wheat little roll here.
Moderation.
And, yeah, again, I don't do it every night, but it works.
Okay, they get pasta, the same thing.
Mac and cheese, right.
Now the chocolate.
Chocolate, dark chocolate, there's some data that suggests that it's good for you. It's chock full of polyphenols. Yeah, but too much will make you overweight, and then you get into trouble. But there's nothing like a nice piece of dark chocolate.
Okay, let's get into the aerobics for some people, maybe not me.
Well, wait, so what's the point? If it just makes you feel good, and so therefore you're going to be better?
It all comes down to moderation.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
Now,
aerobics.
Sex. Let's talk about this. And I have a couple of graphics here because I don't know whether the viewers know. I've been quoted. Can we show that? Is that the one that we have? There's a quotation by me.
Is it from The Joy of Sex?
Well, no, it's kind of. Is that it? Is that where, do we have it? Maybe we don't. Anyway. Oh, there it is. Okay. Sexual activity is a form of physical exercise,
says Dr. Mike.
Men's Health Magazine.
Oh.
That's it.
That was in 97.
That has gotten me a lot of fame and fortune.
I bet it
right
has.
there, folks. That's it. So.
Oh, my God. Have you been called to do interviews because of that one quote?
Well, I thought it was going to be the next Dr. Ruth, but I did do some radio play, some stuff like that. But the bottom line is that intimacy and relations, it doesn't have to be traditional sex, but intimacy, you know what I mean. Like intimacy, holding, touching. Do we have that rhesus monkey picture?
What?
This is getting in.
No, I want to show it. It's very
Don't
important.
tell me you and your wife have a rhesus monkey in it.
No, look.
Oh.
Now, this goes back. I took this class back in college 2,000 years ago. And the bottom line is that we must be held. That little rhesus monkey was studied with a terry cloth mother. Look at that.
We got to go.
Wait a minute.
So
wait,
basically,
wait,
we
wait.
just need
the
human
last
touch.
one. Touching, holding. Can we have a group hug?
I'm attached to a chair, but
wait, over here.
Yes. See, in moderation, Dr.
A
Mike.
group hug, like, oh. See, don't you feel better?
Yeah, I feel
Yes. And then moderate exercise. You don't have to go on a treadmill, you just walk.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I can do
so
that.
that's what they say.
All right, I'm walking out of here because.
Like the good doctor said, everything in moderation. Philly is celebrating Pride Month with 3 days of festivities this weekend. It all starts today with a kickoff party at 12th and Locust Streets at 6 p.m. Tomorrow you can head to Cherry Street Pier to write messages on rainbow ribbons that will be tied on a Pride Parade float. That float will appear in the parade Sunday. The parade starts in the neighborhood and ends at Penn's Landing. There will be food, drinks, and entertainment there as well. This morning, stylist Kevin Parker joined us to show us some Pride fashion.
We're getting things together and we're getting ready because it's Pride this month. And of course, in Philly, though, the big celebration is going to be this weekend. Lots of great events. And then on Sunday, there's going to be a great parade. And our sponsors at Visit Philly, they've been working hard on a float to mark the occasion. So this is a live look at Cherry Street Pier. This is where it's all been going down. And the float is called Philadelphia Pioneers on the Road to Stonewall, marking the 50th anniversary of the riots that launched the LGBTQ civil rights movement. The 34-foot float features a 7-foot Liberty Bell, which you can see so lovely there, 1 million golden eyelashes for the golden anniversary, and also messages of love written on rainbow ribbons. And I think the cool part is that you can go and you can write something, a message of love, anything you want to say, who you're thinking of, on a ribbon, and they will tie it on the float so you can be a part of this float. Because not only will this float be in the parade on Sunday, it's also going to New York for World Pride Day on June 30th. And then it's going to come back to Philly again for the 4th of July parade. So if you want to be a part of that, stop by the Cherry Street Pier. It is a great, great thing, and it's beautiful. And they have flowers in all different colors. Of course, for the rainbow. So we're going to show you a video from the 2018 Philly Pride Parade. Participants and supporters, they put a lot of effort into finding just the right look because you got to show pride for pride. So we have a stylist here, Kevin Parker, who knows how to give you that inspiration for what to wear so you can really stand out. The parade starts at 11 a.m. Yes. Starts at Sunday at 13th and Locust, and it comes all the way down to Penn's Landing.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's going to be awesome, and the first time it's going to be televised, so it's definitely an exciting time.
It is an exciting time. So help us figure out what to wear, Kevin Parker. I love what you're wearing. Love is love.
Yes, love is love, and you can buy this shirt at Target for just $12.
Oh.
You can style it up, you can style it down, however you feel that day, just rock it out.
Okay.
And this is how I feel today.
Well, let's bring in some models then.
Our first model is Kimante. She's wearing a sequence top with from Target, and you can buy this top for just $20 at Target today. It's on sale. Oh, nice. And also this earring, she's the boss. These earrings are from These Pink Lips in partnership with Rashida, and these range from $60 to $80, and these are exclusive, one of a kind, so she can make any kind of earrings for you. And then he also has
you have to have some strong ears for those. I love
exactly, exactly. And he also has the latex pants, which you can get from Got the Look in Center City.
Okay, very nice.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kimante. Our next model is Dante. He has the rainbow button-up, the penguin from...
Oh, look at the rainbows on there.
from Metro Men. And then he also has the Love is Love rainbow socks as well, which is really, really cool. And then he also has...
Wait, where do the socks come from?
The socks come from Metro Men as well.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, yeah. And
where is Metro Men?
Metro Men is in Passyont Avenue.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he also has on the glasses from Men on Mars, which is located in Center City, which caters to the LGBTQ community as well. So he's rocking this look, and he looks good in it. So anybody can go shop, and everything is, the shirt is only $79, and the socks are only $12.
Okay.
So you can look great for less.
And you don't have to worry about the sun at all, because I think those are the biggest sunglasses I think I've ever seen. They are great.
Exactly, exactly.
Save me some time doing makeup. I love it. Thank you.
So our next model is Jonathan. Jonathan is wearing the rainbow tink, and you can buy this also at Metro Men. The rainbow tink is...
Metro Men has all the stuff.
Absolutely, and the rainbow tink is only $39, and you can style this up. You can wear your high-top boots. However you feel that day, you can style it up, you can style it down. It's all about how you feel. It's about being prideful inside and out. So Jonathan is rocking his look with the red glasses and killing it.
And those glasses aren't style now. Seems like the small glasses too. Either go really big or you go really small.
Absolutely, and you can get these glasses from Wish for just $3.
Okay, well thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let's go even bigger and brighter. I'm
and
ready.
Our last but not least,
the grand finale.
Erica Kane. And she's wearing Iris from These Pink Lips, Trans Power Girl jumpsuit, and she's wearing J. Pratt footwear, which is a local designer. These boots retail for $300, and the jumpsuit retails for $300. And this harness you can buy from Men on Mars as well, and the harness actually costs $50.
Very nice. And turn around, let's see, because
rock this,
for These Pink Lips,
awesome.
what you love, she writes great messages and empowering messages on the clothes.
Yes.
So way you can see them and really let everybody know how you're feeling.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's have our grand finale, our final walk here with our lovely models. Come on out. Let's see you all together in your glory. Here we go. Very nice. Okay, so here's some inspiration for you. And really, the events start today.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be a full packed weekend. So you could rock one of these looks every day. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you, Alex, for having me.
We appreciate it. Okay, happy Pride, everyone.
Happy Friday indeed. That's going to end our Fox 29 News Now for today. We're with you weekdays at 10 a.m. after a Good Day Philadelphia. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday. Thanks for watching.